episode of the Coaching Catalyst podcast. I'm Sarah Bramall, joined in the studio by my friend and co-founder Rebecca Daniel, and we are delighted to welcome a special guest today. We have our wonderful friend and our supervisor, Crystal Small. So Crystal, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's so good to be on the podcast today.
Love to hear your introduction, please, for anybody who has not yet had the pleasure of meeting you.
Well, hello world. Hello everybody. My name is Crystal Small. I am founder of Intentional Steps. I am a coach, I am a trainer, a coach supervisor, a mentor, and anything coaching-esque. So every part of my world touches coaching quite deeply. So I'm living La Vida Loca in the world of coaching.
I love it. You absolutely are. And for anybody listening rather than watching this, can I just say, Crystal always looks fabulous, but looking particularly fabulous today, aren't you? Looking at your beautiful earrings and looking fabulous as well.
And if you are listening to this, though, they'll also pick up on the energy, Sarah. So loving Crystal's energy. So living La Vida Loca of all things coaching. Crystal has a very special role in the Catalyst because not only is she all of those things, not only is she an incredible trainer, an incredible supervisor, mentor, coach, and all of that, she also has to deal with the two of us. So if you wanted some inside scoop today on what it's like to supervise Rebecca and Sarah, then this is the chance. We're going to go underneath the hood today of the Coaching Catalyst Supervision, but also we're going to learn from such an amazing individual, but an expert in their field. So Crystal, welcome from me. I would actually love to start from the beginning, actually. A lot of the time when we speak to our guests on the episode, we hear about the richness of their previous career and what led them into coaching in the first place. And obviously, I and Sarah know of your career and your background, but I would love you to share, how did coaching find you, or did you find coaching, whatever it happened? But where was your journey? Where did it start?
Well, do you know what? I'm going to go way back. So when I finished uni, I'm a massive reader, and that's carried through my whole life. But when I left university, I worked for a sickle cell charity, and the founder of that sickle cell charity was an incredible mentor and coach, and she really shaped me in my early womanhood, and she would sit me down and we'd have lots of one-to-one sessions. But in growing me in that way, she always enabled my own thinking, my own reflection. And in around 23, which is a long time ago now, I did join the Metropolitan Police as staff and worked my way up to senior leadership over my time there. And it got to a point where I was head of 3 departments and, head of 3 teams. And that was tremendously rewarding. It was a place of massive growth for me, but also it struck the match on my love for coaching, not only being coached from some of my directors, but also supporting people in my teams. So we would have like team coaching sessions as well as individual sessions. And I was like, oh, I quite like this. I might want to formalize that. So after I had left the police, which is, you never really leave because I've turnstiled back in for different projects and different things. But that's when I went to go off and study. I went and studied at Animas for coaching. And that, well, when I went to sign on to that, I thought, oh, I'm going to learn and consolidate some coaching skills. What I didn't bank on is how much it would transform me as an individual. And it changed relationships. It changed how I approached conversations. So while there was some coaching that I was doing beforehand, it's not until I really, really studied it that I came away with just lights on in a real different way. And it also struck the match again for my love for psychology too.
I love that. Crystal, I don't think I've ever heard you share your background and your journey in that way. And we've had several podcast conversations today with various amazing coaches and supervisors. And that love of learning is really a theme that just keeps coming up, that ongoing development. And thank you again for bringing us back, especially for those of us maybe who've been coaching for quite a long time now, bringing us back to that early stage of your coach training and reminding all of us of that transformational power of coaching and how it just is a game changer for everything. And I love the metaphor you use there of that it's struck a match, because once you strike that match and that spark is there, it keeps growing, right? It keeps growing. It keeps creating more and more light. And we absolutely see that in all that you are and all that you bring into the world. So from the coaching, how did that then lead into your work as a supervisor? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, I think so. From the coaching, I then decided to study to become a supervisor, because if I could just zoom out for a moment and then come back into supervising, when you just think about, and actually I was explaining this last night because I was holding a group mentoring session, and a new coach or coaching training, and I kind of touched the life cycle, whether you're a new practitioner or a seasoned coach or a supervisor, whatever stage. They were like, for people who don't know what coaching is, how do you actually explain what we're doing, right? And it comes back to, and that's a really good question to ask. And I thought about, well, how do I explain this to people? And when we think about why people come to coaching, they come to navigate some kind of change. And so what's the art of a transformative conversation? When we're thinking about what's happening in the space of coaching, there's reflection, there's repetition, there's maybe some tussle and challenge that's going on there. And it's a breeding ground for insight, because we're preoccupied, or growth mindset sets the tone for what coaching is. And so when we understand what coach mindset is, or what a growth mindset is, that it's open, that you're willing, that you understand that setbacks are feedback rather than failures, that you understand that over time you can develop skills, beliefs, qualities, whatever that is. That's saying that, okay, we believe in change, and growth mindset is the psychological framing for that. But our brains, if I can just go there for a moment, is the biological evidence, the neuroplasticity around our ability to change. So when we put these two things together, coaching is the container for our brain's rewiring. And so that's quite an important job.
Wow.
And in that important job, right, when our roles as coaches is to facilitate the journey of change with our clients, actually, I need some help with that. So supervision is really, really key. It's an important job. It's a job that requires ethics, input. It's a job, a part of being a coach is being aware. That is a competency in itself. I will have bias, blind spots. I will be impacted by my clients, because coaching is relational, it's not transactional. And that's why, even though AI absolutely has its place, it cannot replace the humanness and the connectedness that you have in relational coaching. So the reason why I step out to come back into supervision is when we recognize the undertaking of the job of coaching, then supervision, in my humble view, is an ethical must.
You now know why we have Crystal in the room today. Not only are you really passionate, right, but it's like the knowledge and there. So what I'm seeing from you is like we're going like underneath the hood now of what the foundations of coaching is, or to be a coach, and then what else underpins that I guess, that modality to ensure that we're doing it ethically, that we're doing it safely, and that we're being responsible as a coaching practitioner. And so supervision there is the responsibility that we need to ensure that we're doing the right thing for ourselves and for the people that we work with and support.
Yeah,
and that's why we have
absolutely.
you in the room, Crystal.
Thank you. I'm
What
glad
is-
to be in the room.
So when we come into your space, I will let Sarah add her narrative of when she comes into your space. So let me separate the we and go to I, because I know that Sarah adores you just as much as I do. But when I come into your space, into your coaching room, I know that I get the support that I need for myself, first and foremost. But I also know that I have a place where I can go that I know I trust you to do what's in the best service of me. But I also know that I trust you to go, actually, sometimes it's not going to be about you, Rebecca. It's going to be about the people that you're working with. So sometimes it feels challenging in a good way. And I also know that you're my level of accountability. You might not know this, but like for real deep reflection, because like Sarah and I talk about this all the time, but we can do it on our own. But how well do we do it on our own? So what I'm really curious about, and I know that people listening to this will be thinking, oh my goodness, how do you do it? But I really want to know, how do you supervise two individuals that are in the same world, same context, same room, same all of that? How do you do it as well as you do?
Same world, same context, two unique individuals. So we stay in our respective lanes, because when we understand we've got different lenses, blueprints, backgrounds, it's like, how do you honor the person in front of you? Yes, you might know other contexts, but what's relevant in that time, in that space? How are we holding the session in a way that we are live streaming? And I think that's what's in best service. So you're not necessarily, you can be informed, but not distracted by other things. And when we talk about what is ethical, confidentiality, and having those bowling rails, alleys up are really important. I think there's something around, you know, if I think about each of you, and both of you are such different people, right? Just even the way you both have a heart for coaching, but you express yourselves differently. And if I just give a personal example for a moment, when you can live exactly the same experience, right? Or be in the same event, but what you'll take away from that as story might be completely different. So when I think about when I lovingly gave birth to my son 22 years ago, when I talked about that labor experience, and I won't go into it, but when I talked about it, it was one type of story. When my son's father talked about it, he was like, it was really tricky cutting that cord, right? I was like, oh, it's a different story to mine, but a valuable part nonetheless, right? And so this is, I think this is the thing to honor when you're speaking to individuals, that they may be in the same company, championing the same kind of common goal, and yet they will sit in their uniqueness. So how do you sit with them and partner with them in that? And that's how I work with you guys.
Thank you for sharing the insight, because, you know, we get people that want to work with teams, for example, that have the same kind of conversation or dilemma of, well, how do I, if I'm working internally or even externally with the same group of people, sorry, not same group of people, with the same team of people within the same organization, how do I separate what's going on? So I think it is definitely a skill set that we need to learn. And what I'm taking away from you there is something that Gabor Mate said on a podcast that I was listening to. He was talking about children being raised in the household, which is kind of along the same lines of your story there of your labor experience. He said, because there could be three children with the same three parents, but they're not the same three parents. It's not the same through parenting. It's not the same through experiences. We may think it is, but it's not. And so that's kind of what I'm hearing from you there, is something that was along the lines of what he was saying. So thank you for sharing that. I'm learning, I'm making notes every single time we have a conversation. Sarah, this is our time to tap into something that we want to ask Crystal.
I think that's a great analogy, Rebecca, that you shared there. You're absolutely right. Yeah, Crystal, I think, what I'm taking from what you've just shared is that real sense of partnering with, and that real sense of presence that you have. And I think that's the reason I feel so held in your supervision space, is because you are able to harness that presence to be so responsive to me and to meet me where I am in that moment. Because the person I am in one conversation is very different from the person I will have been in the last conversation or in the future conversation, because it completely depends on what is going on in the periphery. And I think the other skill that I really appreciate in you is that, yes, you are aware of the system in which I am operating. You're aware of my partnership with Rebecca. You're aware of our team. You're aware of the coaching catalysts. And sometimes you bring that in. But it always starts with me. And I think that being in that supervision space, for me, more than being in a coaching space, but being in a supervision space allows me to be seen and met where I am in the moment. Because unlike coaching, there's no kind of, oh, let's move on to the, what's going to happen next. There's a real sense of stillness, of presence, of unraveling. And that's absolutely invaluable, because generally, and I'm guessing this is probably true, the rest of you listening, let me know if this is true for you when you come to supervision. Generally, it's not until I start talking that I realize that I have any idea really of where I'm at or what's going on for me, because it emerges as we're speaking.
Yeah.
What about for you, Crystal? What do you get? We've talked about you as a supervisor, but what do you receive from being supervised yourself?
Okay, so I am in supervision every month without fail. So when I think about supervision, it's not, oh, something's happened in my practice, let me go and book supervision. It is a rhythm that is a bedrock to my practice. And this is why I say I do believe it to be that ethical foundation to being a good coach, because I don't want to be left in an echo chamber of my thoughts. Reflective practice and supervision is a part of that. I think in speaking to my supervisor every single month, genuinely, there's a part of me that she knows that my friends don't even know. Right? When I think about, and I've had the same supervisor for years. And if you see me in supervision, you think, who is this? Like, she is a whole mess, right? At times, just because actually in supervision, I can bring my whole self. And I say that lovingly, because while supervision is not therapy, it would be remiss of me to say the background of your life is somehow separate from how you show up as a coach. There's something around being able to process what's happening for you personally and professionally so that you can practice well. And so when we are thinking about awareness, reflection, our own relational and emotional intelligence, that's hosted in my supervision space. Because we can't talk about holistic and then miss something out. So I bring it there, and it's safe, it's contained, it's confidential, and therefore I'm not masked in any way, because it's a space that I trust. It's a space that I'm like, I can say something and then work it through, and I'm not being judged for terminology or words that I use. I can learn about myself as I go along. I am often challenged in the supervision space that I sit in. And while it would be great to always feel euphoric at the end of supervision, sometimes I am just left with the challenge to mull through. Because I think sometimes it can be a misconception of coaching and supervision, where I always want my client to leave feeling on a high. Sometimes you feel disrupted or interrupted because of the challenge, and that doesn't necessarily, that's not a bad thing, I don't think, because it allows me to kind of break the ice of my former thinking. It's just, how do we have a new insight? You know, if we think about the gamma wave is the fastest wave in the brain, that is actually nicknamed the gamma wave, but the insight wave. But just before that wave, there's the alpha wave, which is the quietness, the rest wave as well. And so in studies, it shows that before we get insight, there's this alpha wave, just nanoseconds. And so if we think about the supervision space being that quiet space for that reflection, through that working through, that's where my insights happen, right? And that space is so necessary, because out of those insights, it's the new thinking, it's the new perspective, it's the how else might I approach this with my clients? Where am I taking this to? What have I learned about myself as a coach? Because that is a part of the service that we're offering to our clients. And if I'm blind to myself, there's going to be a level of blindness with my client. We, you know, going back to that age-old saying, we only meet others as far as we meet ourselves. In supervision, I meet myself. In supervision that I hold, I invite the clients to meet themselves. It can be comfortable, sometimes it can be uncomfortable, but is it effective? Is the landing point for me.
You know, we often have conversations with people that have either never been in supervision, or they have been in supervision for a while with the same supervisor. So I think I've got two kind of different conversations here that are happening in my head. I think the first conversation is like, what happens in supervision? And as you've described there, like bringing your whole self is really key in order to actually get the most out of the supervision space, like the effectiveness of being in receipt of supervision, but also knowing that it will feel very differently at different times, and what we'll be in receipt of will feel very differently. So sometimes I know that I can be in supervision with you or any other supervisor, and you might teach me something. You might, you might impart some knowledge. Sometimes it might feel like you're coaching me through something. Sometimes it might feel that you are just holding a reflective space for me to kind of just unravel all of my thoughts. And it can be, just like you feel that it could be a mess, it can feel like a complete mess, because I'm like, here, have it all, take it all. So I'm just making a note of that for people that are not really too sure what it can feel like or what it can look like, because there's no one size fits all. It doesn't look a particular way for each one of us. But I think the question that I have for you is around duration, because you've mentioned that you've been with your supervisor for a while. What are the pros and cons of that?
I think if I think about my first 3 months with my supervisor and how I showed up as a supervisee, and now we're years in, just how much I can come in and immediately be me. There's no warm up to what I'm bringing. I'm like, she's gonna get it right, and she's ready, right? So, and that comes from relationship. It comes from trust. I don't think there's an exact science. I think it's what works for you. There might be absolute benefit in having, after you've maybe had a supervisor for a while, that you think, oh, okay, maybe newness or a fresh perspective or pivot can be really, really helpful, because there's diversity of thought, right? Each supervisor, just like each coach, will bring something new. I think the reason why I've stayed with my supervisor for so long is my supervisor, and it inspires how I operate as well, is always learning. She has the same kind of zest and love for learning that I've got. So it's never stale. So if she is sharing something, I know off the back of either a book she's read, a podcast she's listened to, a course she's done, another credentialing, if we're talking about tools and techniques. So there's an iron sharpens iron developmental tone to our interaction. But also, when I think about my own levels of trust and safety, it is rock solid. And that's why I've stayed. It's just a roll-on arrangement. And it's a rhythm and a patterning that I'm in now. And it's not to say, would I ever have a different supervisor? Maybe. Maybe as an additional, but I just like the bedrock of where I am. And I think if there was a day or a season where I felt, oh, I'm no longer growing in this space, then that would maybe initiate change. But that hasn't happened so far. And so I've had no reason. There's been no catalyst to change for that.
I love that you said that relationship is rock solid and you can bring anything you want to. And it actually reminded me, Rebecca, of a conversation that we had when we were in Marrakesh, and we were speaking, Crystal, we were speaking about you and about how much we trusted you and how we really admired the fact that you do supervise both of us. And Rebecca used an expression which really stayed with me. She said, Crystal is leak proof. Like, as in, whatever goes into that container, we have absolute trust and safety that what goes into that container stays in that container, because your boundaries are, as Rebecca's words, they're leak proof. And I think there is no undervaluing that. That is just an incredibly important and quality and essential to that feeling of trust and safety that both of us have in you.
Thank you. I think that's a lovely compliment. I think one of the best compliments to say that I'm not leaky. I'm just like, wow, thank you. I'll take that. I'll take
that one. my way with words, Crystal. And let's make this no mistake. Please do keep my supervision chair, because there are a lot of benefits of being in a non-leaky chair and non-leaky room with you. But, it's one of the reasons why we have a team of supervisors, because there was something you said about difference, right? Maybe just sometimes people might need a change in perspective, a change in just setting of the supervision room. But there also are benefits of being with the same person. And it is down to that trust and safety. But yeah, you're right. I want to be with someone who's learning and growing too, alongside me, right? Someone who's just a bit further ahead, who can share and impart some of their knowledge with me as well. So yeah, non-leaky. That's my 2-word checkout, everybody. Already I'm at the end, but we're not there yet. Go on, Sarah.
Not quite there yet. So Crystal, we are so excited and so proud of you for your recent appointment to, let me just check I've got this right, Director of Professional Development for EMCC UK. Yes. Tell us please about that and what that entails. I know it's very new, but tell us what that's all about.
So I'm a super sparkling newbie on the board, and it has been genuinely it's a lovely time of year to join, because I managed to meet everyone in person over a Christmas meal. But I think one of the things, and thank you both, actually, because both of you supported my application in this, and I really appreciate it. I think it's a great opportunity to shape the industry at a national level, to really think about how are we holding our membership, how are we continuing to support them, really having that strategic lens around okay, so what does our community of coaches need from an awarding body? What's the kind of inspiration? What's the education? But most importantly, what's the relationship? Again, it comes back to having a community of coaches that connect with one another, and knowing that, coaches who are maybe setting up their practice, for example, that can be quite an isolating experience, right? And to know that there's a whole world of coaches, I mean, where you guys have your collective, that's incredible, because there's a home base, there's somewhere to come. And I think that there's a scripture that inspires me when I think about community, and it says, one may chase 1,000, but 10 can set 10,000, 2 can set 10,000 to flight. And that for me is the power of your effort multiplied, or that just taking that time to connect with others allows for us to grow with each other, but also be in service of one another in a way that feels congruent. You're in alignment, you'll have a mindset where you believe in this work. And I think in joining as a part of professional development, I'm really, really passionate about, okay, so what are we doing for a coaching community? Because it has a ripple effect on the work that they go out to do with their clients.
I love it.
You're in the right place, Crystal, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you create as part of that role, because I think just the passion alone for wanting to make a contribution to the coaching community is something that I highly respect, and there's a genuine desire to contribute to ensure that we're making sure that everyone's getting the best out of the process, not just the coaches, the coachees too, and just the wider coaching community. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you create there.
Amazing.
So we're coming to the end of our episode, and the tradition in the Coaching Catalyst podcast is to have our 2 words, and I am so excited to go for my 2 words first. Normally, Crystal, I go Sarah, you go, and then I'll go at the end. But drum roll, leak proof is my word. If you get to the end of this and you're like, what and why? But I just think, do you know what? Leak proof is more than that. Let's take the humor aside from that. It's the ethics there. It's the trust. It's the safety. Who knew that this one word could mean all of that? But it's professionalism. It's respect. It's all of that. So I thank you for being in the chair with us today, but I also thank you for facilitating our sessions and for continuing to learn and grow from you. So who wants to go next? See Crystal thinking there. Do you want to go? Should we pass it to Sarah?
Can I put 3 words?
Listen, Rebecca breaks the rules every time. Rebecca breaks the rules every time. So you can do what you like, Crystal, frankly.
I didn't even go for 2 words. I went for 1 today, because leak proof is 1 word, isn't it? Break the rules. 3-word checkout for Crystal Small.
3 words. So this is in relation to supervision, given that you are the coaching catalyst. So it's making supervision rhythm, not reactive. So rhythm, not reactive, are my 3 words.
I like that.
I love that, Crystal. Thank you. That's given me lots to think about. Wow. And my 2 words. Sarah. It's all right. It's rare that I'm lost for words, but I am thinking now. The word that's coming up for me is effervescent, Crystal, because when you came into the room today, you were effervescent with energy, and that has continued throughout the conversation. And I think that speaks to your passion for coaching, for supervision, for your ongoing learning. So thank you. And it's less exciting maybe than leak proof, but there's safety. There's such safety in your presence. And I'm so grateful for all that you do to support. Because listen, Rebecca and I could not do what we do without your support. So you are like the foundation for us. Maybe you're the bedrock. Okay, I'm going to backtrack now. Maybe you're the... There we are. I mean, I was all over the place
normally-
there. I know, I'm usually on it, right? But
You normally stick to the rules. I'm liking this new rebel Sarah as we come to the end of 2025. Oh, Crystal, please do share how the listeners can connect with you and kind of what's coming up in your world in the near future.
Oh, lots of stuff coming up in my world. So you can connect with me via socials. Look out for, well, my website is www.intentionalsteps.co.uk. Specifically for coaches, I'm currently enrolling for February next year of a program which is called Vision to Viability. And this is for those who are wanting to make coaching a real central feature of their professional career, or indeed building a practice. And it is for 12 months. Every month you get one-to-one coaching and 2 group sessions, and those group sessions will be masterclasses from people in the industry, group coaching. It will be reflective practice. It will be practical workshops and a bit of mentoring all thrown in. But the point is that togetherness, that seeking community, that relational accountability, and the actual, thinking about an infrastructure where your motivation might wane, systems win out. And you usually get further along the road when people are there to support you.
oh my goodness, anybody listening to this, do not miss the opportunity to work with Crystal, because take it from us, you are phenomenal. What an incredible opportunity. Thank you so much for all that you brought to our conversation today, Crystal. Thank you.
Amazing. Good stuff.
And if you're listening to this, please do share your 2-word checkout with us over on WhatsApp. You'll get all of the show notes and all the links to Crystal's program and website, but also to our WhatsApp. And if you are not following the podcast, then please do click that follow button. I know I sound like Stephen Bartlett today, but we've been told if you don't click the follow, then you don't get the notification. So please do click the follow and share with your friends. All right, then. Until next time, thank you for listening to our podcast.